Hello. What up, y'all? It snowed. It's like 4 inches. It's supposed to snow tonight. It'd be a powder day. Those of y'all who don't ski, you don't know. You don't get it. So let's do the 18 breaths. You guys ready? Hands in front. So the idea is that all of my stuff is progressional, meaning that it's better if you listen from the beginning, because then not only do you see me update, you don't just come in on like the 7th, like if you were watching a show and you just started watching it in the middle, there's a lot of background. I mean, I could go on tour and speak about this stuff, like Krishnamurti did. I'm realizing there's certain points about Krishnamurti that, I disagree with all of everyone, right? For the most part, except for him. I think that he just uses different language because he recognized that it does begin inside, right, of each of us. That's where the work has to be done before we can operate in relationship with each other that isn't destructive, right? So chin down, remember, push your lumbar out, knees bent to obscure your toes, feet shoulder width, right? Shoulder width, turn under, thoracic spine in, chin dropped, spine expanding upward, right? Anti-gravitational. Hands now in front of the heart, in a bow, right? So try to make a curve with those arms, right? Drop the shoulders. Don't press them down. Just drop them. Scapula, right? Flat. That's what happens when you drop them. And your lats stick out, right? Your latissimus dorsi. When you do that, right? So you get this V shape. Face, no expression, but you'll find when you do that silent out breath that your face will be lightened also, right? So it'll elevate. This, the exalted, in front of the third eye. Still drop the shoulders. I know in the camera view it looks like my arms are in an L shape, but it's the same attempted arc, right? Because it is an L bow, right? On this one, you're like blasting on the out. When your hands are outward, your energy is blasting outward. Right? So you're like clearing the pipes. Ah, you hear me exclaim when my shoulder shifts. So let's try the 7 seconds breath in through the belly. Fill the belly first, the lower. All right, so breathe out. And then silent out breath and extend upward. So it's that silent out breath, right, where you can perceive the silence, right? That's the objective, right? For that's the objective of meditation, right? And when you do the standing, your mind is not occupied with the past. It's fully present, right? Because it's inside your body. Inside your body. And so that is how Qigong is kind of a hack to meditate, because it gets you into the state without you being aware of getting into the state, you know? But you can feel it when you get there, right? You can feel it. And that's the objective, right? Which is that connection to the silence, right? To the deafening silence, right? There's nothing so loud as the sound of everything, right? We need for sound waves to travel, right? It needs a substrate and, a material to vibrate, right? And so they say there's no sound in space, right? But there's definitely waves, shock waves, gravitational waves. It's like, what is the substrate of the gravitational wave? That is the structure of the vacuum, right? That the vacuum has a structure, and it's full of. I'm sorry. Fuck, I wish that didn't happen. All right. I mean, it's just part of it. The structure of the vacuum, right? And Nassim Harriman, that guy, he's kind of a fringe scientist, but he has a huge following and he does a lot of research. And he's good. I like him a lot, but I'm not sure about his. I mean, I should probably give it more credence, but he does talk about sacred geometry, and I think he's correct about the most basic, the smallest unit, right, is defined by the tetrahedron, right, and that the star tetrahedron connected in a lattice, perhaps, right, is the universe, right, is the substrate that in which all exists, right? So that's what you're accessing, right? This, it's almost like you're touching the web, right? And you can feel all of everything. But, right, so when you try to cognitize that, right, when you try to own it, right, is when it collapses, right? You collapse the wave function. And I think, I've described this in my podcast, and somewhere around, in a couple of episodes. But this quantum mechanics observer effect, the observer effect, right? Things exist, right, and we're talking about measuring subatomic particles, but they exist as two things at once, or two things at once, a wave and a particle, right? And it's only when we decide to look at it that it is one or the other. And depending on what, we can't measure both at once, right? Our instrumentation, right? We're taking a measurement, right? It's the instruments that are actually looking at it, right? But it definitely is our choice, right? We have to choose. And so the electron in the double slit experiment, right? Have you guys looked into this at all? It's not that really, I mean, it's mind-boggling, but it just serves to illustrate the superposition principle, right, of quantum mechanics, which is that until observed things exist in superposition of states, right? And people make fun of the Schrodinger's cat fucking thought experiment, but I mean, that's realistic. That's basically what it is, which is that there's no, until we are aware of the outcome of a dual situation, right, where it could be one thing or the other. Until we are aware of it, it is both things, right? Until we look at it, until we open the box, right? And this is what I've been arguing, right? When you connect, right? When you're doing meditation, when you make that connection that I was describing to the lattice of the vacuum, right? The structure of all things, the substrate in which all things take form into. It is consciousness, right? Consciousness comes first. That is where, when I'm talking, that's what we're operating from. Right? We're not talking about how consciousness is a cosmic accident that happens later, right? It is first thing, right? This awareness, and that's the first principle of Hermeticism, right? Is that all is mind, right? This creation, right? The totality was thought into being because an intention was set and a position was chosen, right? And so once that happens, right, that's the first collapsing of the potentiality, right? It creates a chain reaction, right? And so that's what you could say is the beginning of creation. And all of these creation myths, I mean, coming at it from a math perspective, or from a perspective of like, what is time? There's a paradox there, right? That how can there be a beginning if all time exists at once? And that's pretty much what it is. And we are gifted in this dimension of the totality, right? Right. So time dilation, right? Time dilation. It's spoken about a lot. And that's like where you can lose time, right? Abductees, other instances where you leave the body, right? Or like when you're dreaming, you can dream a whole life almost, and then wake up in the morning and it's only been 8 hours, right? And you've only been dreaming for 2 of them, 2 or 3. right? And it's like you lived a whole life, you know. Sometimes you have these dreams where, like, wow, what a story, you know, what a compelling story. Maybe I should write that shit down. But it's a speaking of time dilation, I was just talking about how in perhaps, right, upper dimensions, right, time passes in a different way, like relative to here, right? And so the totality includes all time, forever, right? All the future and all the past, right? And that's why a lot of people, right, are adherents to this hard determinism thing, that everything was determined at the beginning, right? And that it is just playing out. I don't think that's what it is, right? It's not hard determinism, right? That would be like our gift to be here as human beings would then be like, oh, we can just cop out because it's already set, right? It's already been written, you know? And that's not what we're here to do, you know? And so I was speaking of Krishnamurti, and his whole thing is, right, to, like, I agree with everything that he says, right? Everything. But he says that there's nothing to be done, right? And I completely agree with that. Like, we can't do anything, right? To what we have without creating more complexity and conflict, right? We only add to it, right? The only way to create a new pattern of relationship, right, for society is if we all make that psychological transformation that's required, that would permit, actually, that would permit a new pattern of relationship, like a new pattern of society and a breaking of the cycle, right? Because we're obviously in a cycle. And we are coming around on, you know, the starting point again, as we speak. So it's like there's nothing to be done except that if we all make that psychological transformation, then we will all know what to do and we will do it, you know. This is this effortless effort, this principle, from the Tao, the Wu Wei, you know, effortless effort, right? There's no question as to the correctness of it. It just is correct, right? And so, yeah, like what is to be done is to do that. And you know, people say it's the fucking inner work or whatever, the shadow work, all this bullshit, man. I mean, it's not bullshit, but it's all, you know, it becomes, you know, a brand, you know. And so then it becomes that it just has a following, and the veracity of it, right? The truth that you can find when you go inside, right? When you relinquish identity, right? When you relinquish tradition, when you relinquish your thoughts, who you think you are, what you think you are, right? Then you can really know yourself, like what you are. And so it's like, now what is that? Like, what is it? What are we? What does it mean? You know, what does all of this mean? You know, and I always say, like, the way it is is there's something, you know, wrong, and that's not the teacher, right? There's something wrong with it, and that's not required for us to fulfill our, the realization of our gifts, right? Because we all are born with gifts, right? And you can't take credit for a gift, right? Because it was given to you. The realization of our gifts don't require this brokenness, this society with mental illness, this societal fucking autoimmune fucking disease, we're just limping. We're just barely handling, like fucking barely, and why do we want to do that? So my whole point is to not say that nothing can be done and that you'll never change it, right? There's making the psychological transformation permits, space, right? So you open space in your cognitive awareness, and you don't wear any goggles, right? You don't have a viewpoint, right? You open space in your awareness, right? And to do that, you have to let go of your identity, right? So how we are defined, right? How we define ourselves, right? And so that is it right there, the psychological transformation, right? But we still have all of these gifts, each of us, and we have them, right, in order to realize them, to bring them to fruition. So it's like when you let go of who you think you are, right, which is largely for a lot of us defined by what we're good at, you're not your role. You're not your role. You're not your thoughts. You're not your body. When you come to this realization, right, then, right, it's not as if you disappear, right? So we want to, in order to define ourselves, to make comparisons, right? Right? To compare, like, how else would you know, right? And so that's this idea of competition. And I wanted to talk about it some more, competition, so we'll just bookmark that for later. But this comparison, right? So when you let go of the comparison, it opens space in your cognitive awareness for something new, right? So new thoughts, thoughts that are not based on anything that has occurred, right? And so, right, with these new fucking ideas, right, that are coming, having let go of your psychological sense of self, right, are still going to be processed by your faculties, right? And they're not these new thoughts, like where are they coming from, right? Is it intuition, right? Or is it divine inspiration, right? They mesh with your gifts, right? You wouldn't be able to visualize and get excited about something, right, if it wasn't fucking aligned with what you can do with that information, the said idea, the new idea that comes in from where, like, so you let go of your preconceived notions, and suddenly what's possible is fucking unlimited, right? The immeasurable possibility. And so, yeah, like that, what's there to be done, right, is to stop defending your psychological sense of self so that you can permit the new to enter, right? And that new is probably what you're fucking came here to do, you know? And so they're too attached to this idea that, you know, that we just gotta, you know, do the best we can, or just live our lives, or, you know, live in a high vibration, blah blah blah. Don't try to fucking act in a general way, you know, on the general, on the collective, uh, right? That's not it, right? Because, right, the idea is to progress into the unknown, right? If we keep repeating the same cycles, and so there's no psychological fucking transformation is the best word. Evolution's not it, because we already have it all here. Like, we don't need to evolve to get it. We have it already. It's only just been fucking dampened, or, you know, there's like a yoke put on us. And the yoke is the fucking conditioning, you know, is the worldview that we get installed as a young person, and is reinforced as we move forward. So, are you with me? Right. So what I'm trying to get at is that, um, for me, I've visualized and gotten excited, right, about a way to permit the realization of everyone's gifts, right? And so that's what I'm trying to impart here. That's what I'm imparting, to attempt, right, to build that image, right, in your own minds, so that we can come together, right? I know what to do, right? I know what it is, but I don't know exactly how, right? I can start it, right? And so that's what I'm doing. It's like, I need help. I need team members. I need to join a team if there's something happening out there. Just putting it out there, you know, just saying, right, that I was confused really about what I really wanted, you know. And this is what I've been wanting, you know, forever. Right? So it's a big ask, but not really. Because, yeah, it really is like don't take it too seriously, but like, we could really make it awesome, right? That's what I get excited about, you know. We could really make this fucking awesome, right? And as opposed to, oh fuck, we gotta fucking pull out of this nosedive or we're all fucked, right? It's less of that and more like, oh my god, look at what we can do, you know. And so, yeah, it's like, if we can all get into that state, which is why I do the qigong, because it preps you, right? It um, puts you in the present, because you can't not be when you're inside your body with your awareness, you know. And when you're doing qigong, you're constantly fucking inside your body. And then when you do that out breath, I mean, it's radical, man. Like, when you feel it, you know. Um, so it creates space, right? Because you're in the present and you're not considering anything from the past, right? And everything that we think is built from the past, from our experience, you know. So yeah, it's like, we really kind of like got to let all of that shit go, in order to create the space for the new. And when you create that space, you know, each of you guys, whatever it is that you do, you know, you'll be inspired, and it'll make sense to you. So it's like you let go of your identity, you let go of defending your psychological sense of self, but you actually, your individual gifts are fucking compounded and amplified, right? If you just let go. And I can say it, right? Doing it is another thing, but this training, right, really fucking helps. And when I create the space, right, for the new, right, this is what came in, which is this, that the exchange is everything, that people live by exchanging with each other, right? And so the exchange occurs over the network, the human network, and everyone is connected to everyone else, right? So we begin with the network, right? We begin by creating an interface to the network and showing it graphically. So any of y'all who are watching this and you're getting excited, that means that it's like that idea has sunk in, right? So there is something to be done. We can do something that would be in alignment with our nature, right? Which is to exchange value and to create a portal, right, for that exchange that is not corrupted and incorruptible, right? So right there, I'm sure I hung a lot of you guys, right? How do you make a network that cannot be corrupted? Right? When the work has already been done, right? Because if you're in the network, then you have stopped defending your psychological sense of self. So yeah, like I said, how I know what, right? We can start it. And I'm doing this and I'm gonna do that. Right? I'm gonna do all this shit. But if I could talk to y'all, or if you guys could, I don't know, spread the word or something. I have no idea. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. And so it's like you begin and we crystallize the human network, the sacred human network, right? That exists already. And we are the nodes, the connection between the nodes, right? If you can visualize a network, right? A lattice structure is energy and information that we transfer to and from each other. And so we turn that into, we create that so that we can see it, right? We can see the network, right, in real time. That's the first thing we do, right? And so we crystallize the lattice of the sacred network, which is what I've been talking about. So if you just came in on this shit, I mean, yeah, while you're doing your workout, it'll fucking blow your mind. Listen from the beginning. Anyway, love and stay tuned